Hello everyone and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, and as always, we've got at least 4 great decks for you. Well, at least 3, but today is 4 great decks for you, including a couple extra decks for the weekend missions and our weekend review of Cersei. Also, we had a humongous OTA yesterday. We did a full video covering that. If you would like to check that out, please feel free to do so here on the channel. In addition to that gigantic OTA video, that video has the Season Pass giveaway for the week. So make sure you check it out. It'll tell you what to do in the video in order to win a Gilgamesh who is just buffed. Talk about Gilgamesh's buff and what my immediate impressions are of that as well. If you'd like to see gameplay of the decks from this video, check out the stream team. Tonight we have Tuccrr, and going live around the same time as this with yesterday's decks is the great FaThorNewman, so make sure you check those out. Our first deck is Ava's Wild Ride. Ava's Zord has been absolutely flying up the leaderboard since the change to all the new cards, to all the old cards, to all the cards in the OTA, and what he's having most success with is this Professor X list. This is a straight up move list that's working really well. Suddenly, Move loves Professor X. He might actually be the meta card that Move was waiting for this whole time. But it's not just Ava playing this, although you should definitely check out Ava at twitch.tv/AvaZord. He's a genuinely brilliant player. Ava, Sizer, Arisberry, and W are all trying different variations of Professor X right now and having great success. The card is legitimately really good, unless your opponent's running a lot of move, and if you are running a lot of move, you can do great things with this card. If you Professor X left, it makes it really, really hard for opponents to compete with you. For this deck, Nocturne can be Jeff without losing too very much. I think Jeff is better. Nocturne is better for this list in particular, but Jeff is great and one of the best cards of the game. Hope and Ghost Spider are required, but that's a relatively cheap deck, right? Like, that's only 3 high series cards, so that's about as good as it gets. So turn 1 is usually nothing. Turn 3, you're going to get ready to move either Dagger or Vulture, or you can just wait until turn 3 doing nothing along the way, right? Like, you can drop your Ghost Spider and Iron Fist early as necessary because you've got the Beast and the Falcon. Excuse me. Turn 2 would be Craven is your safe play. That's your, like, safety play. Turn 3, Hope. If you didn't have the Hope and you've been setting up moves, and now you're going to start moving and maybe get ready to bounce. Turn 4, move cards on Hope. Turn 5 is either Professor X or bounce. And turn 6 is Heimdall or replay the move and Shang-Chi. This list is so good. So what we're talking here is you go Craven in one lane, Hope in another, right? Then the next lane, you're going to go Iron Fist or Ghost Spider with that Vulture. And then you're going to drop a Professor X, right? And you don't have to be winning that Professor X lane anymore the second you play Professor X. At that point, you can Heimdall some cards over into that Professor X lane to win, and if you can make sure that, like, that Vulture is also still big and out there, or you can just, like, cold drop a Dagger and have that as your extra power, as the case may be. It's really good. It's really powerful, and it's really interesting and different. You can also, by the way, have Craven in the lane in a Professor X, and then all the cards that you move in with Heimdall, or they want to move in, are going to buff that Craven too. Thing of beauty is this deck. I think it's 100% worth it. The Beast and the Falcon are largely here for when you don't get the Professor X thing going. If you don't get the Professor X or Heimdall, or you only get one of the two, they give you the option to, like, if you do a little bit of extra move early, you can Beast and Falcon back your Ghost Spider Iron Fist, so, like, you can move Dagger, then you can end up moving Vulture, then you can bounce again Professor X and then replay some move cards, right? Or if you don't have the move cards, you can bounce on turn 5 and then you can replay them instead of Heimdall, or, like, not bounce them, leave them out and just drop Heimdall and win. There's a lot of ways to win. This deck is a thinking person's prize. We're going to see a lot of move Professor X, I think, going forward. Oops, not dead yet. But I don't think I'm sad about it, because this is not what Professor X was. It's cool and interesting and different. We will have more versions of this, more versions of different Professor X decks as the meta continues to develop. But if this is at the top of the infinite leaderboard, it is worth knowing about. I haven't done the Devil Wears Prada analogy in a really long time, so I'm going to do the Devil Wears Prada analogy just to annoy models. Hey, Mott. All right, so if you ever watched the movie The Devil Wears Prada, there's this scene where the protagonist is going to interview at a fashion magazine, and the evil fashion magazine owner is like, whatever, like being mean, and the protagonist is like, oh, I don't care about this. Anne Hathaway is like, oh, I don't care about this. This is stupid. No one cares about high fashion. I'm not rich. What does this matter? And the antagonist fundamentally goes, well, you see, the color of that shirt you're wearing was on the cover of our magazine 3 years ago, and through a bunch of different time and like influence that this magazine has, this ended up being something that you bought at your equivalent to Old Navy years down the line. I think that's fundamentally what the top of the meta does. The top of the meta has these great ideas, these extremely powerful decks, and while you won't see them immediately, they will eventually spread to the rest of the meta, because the top of the meta is building to beat everything, right? They're building to beat the very best decks, the very best people, and that means that, generally speaking, their ideas trickle down to the rest of the meta. That's why I focus so much on the top of the meta. It's not that I think that they're the only important players, but because they're building very specifically to be able to climb in the hardest place to climb. When it's easier to climb, those same decks tend to work really well. Please hit that sub, hit that like, hit that comment. We'd really appreciate it. We bring you at least 4 great decks every single weekday. I need to not say that. We bring you at least 3 great decks every single weekday. Lately, we've had 4 because we took a couple days this week and did like top 5 decks of last season and stuff like that. And so we have extra decks floating around. So we've been doing 4 decks a day for a while. I don't know if I can commit to 4 decks every single day, but I'll do 4 where possible. These are top meta decks. These are proven decks from the very best players in Marvel Snap. Please check it out. I think you'll really, really enjoy the channel. Hit that like, hit that comment, watch for as long as you can if you're already subbed. All right, next up we have the Sizer Bounce. So immediately before the OTA, this was the highest win rate deck in about 100 games. In High Infinite, nothing had a high win rate like this. Sizer was bluntly going to play this in a tournament and asked me to wait an extra couple days to share it. And, well, now I can share it. Although, it took a little bit of a hit, not nearly as much as you would think. You know how I know that? Because as soon as I got home from work, exhausted though I am after a board meeting and the last day of classes with a million tearful goodbyes, I went and tested this and Noki because I love Bounce and I love Noki. So both play well. This is stellar. This list is so freaking strong and it's so hard to play around. If you can bounce your Sage, you are so far ahead. It's absurd. This is like almost Noki meets Bounce. It's so freaking good. All right. Sizer doesn't have any social media, but he chills in the top 5 of the Infinite Leaderboard. He's one of the best players in the world. High series cards are mostly needed, but you can try Iceman for Nico. Claw may be changeable for Iron Man or like a million other cards if we're being totally honest, a Mockingbird, so on. But I've loved Claw on this. Claw has gotten me a lot of cubes as people are like, oh my god, there's an extra 8 power in that lane and I don't know where power is going. Do I need to beat 11 there? Do I need to beat 17 there? Like, it's really, really complicated to play around Claw and Bounce. Really great idea. It was here for Professor X, but I think it's still worthwhile. And again, this was the highest win rate deck immediately before the OTA. I think it is still an incredibly high win rate deck and going to be one of the best things to do. If you're interested in more versions of Bounce, we've featured like 5 versions of Bounce this week. We have 2 top 5 bounces, I think this one being one of the 2, a .geo bounce yesterday, and then we had Bounce again in the like top 5 decks Monday. So if you like Bounce, this is the week. I think Bounce is about to be meta, friends. All right, turn 1, Hood or Kitty. If you're playing Hood over Kitty, what you're basically saying is I don't have Angela on turn 2, and I don't have Sasquatch and Mysterio in hand because turn 2 I can go Demon and Kitty. Turn 2, Angela is over the 2/1s, is over, and you only Mysterio if you have Sasquatch for the next turn. Turn 3 is Sasquatch or Nocturne, and very specifically, Sage if you have Beast in hand. If you've got a couple 1s down or like a 1 and a Angela, and you can play Sage on turn 3 and then Beast it on turn 4, you're perfectly happy. At that point, your play would be Bounce and Mysterio. Bounce and Mysterio is reasonably often that turn, but not always. Turn 5 is Claw or Sasquatch plus some other cards. Oh, and then turn 6 is Claw or Sage plus some other cards. This is about as simple as Bounce gets. Very powerful, very effective, and super duper straightforward if you have access to it. And that, like, this deck is reasonably expensive, right? We've got Kitty, who's Series 4, Nico, Series 5, but has been out a really long time, so hopefully you've had time to get it. Sage, Nocturne, and Sasquatch. I guess you actually don't need Nocturne. Excuse me. I didn't say you need Nocturne, but I guess you don't. That could be like a Red Guardian. That could be a Bishop. That could be lots of cards. I think Nocturne is fine to replace with a number of cards. Powerful card, effective card. Even Jeff is fine here, right? Powerful and effective card, but probably not a requirement for this list. we are sponsoring a major tournament of some of the best Marvel Snap players. There are open qualifications for this invitational style tournament on June 23rd and June 30th. Where to find those qualifications will be linked in this and every video for the next little bit, so check it out if you'd like to win a potential prize pool of $350. This is some of the best players in Marvel Snap. We will have exclusive decks from this tournament. The Snap Masters number 2 top 4 are invited again, as are certain other invitees. We have Sizer, Spyro, FAK Andrew Varr, and FAK I Lost Son, the Great Johnson, Tori Kuhn, Desmond, Lambie Series W, Braude, Husky Puppies 35, and one more player unannounced. And then there are 6 open places for the open qualifications. Go check it out. See how you match up with the very best Marvel Snap players, and keep an eye on this tournament to see how the very best Marvel Snap players compete against one another. All right, we're on to the weekend mission-y stuff. I know it says Gilgamesh is still a 5-7. It takes a while for Snap Zone to caches to update. Sorry about that. He's a 5-9 now if you missed the OTA somehow. Nico should be out today, by the way, so I threw the hip Nico in, and I'm really excited. And I know this isn't talking about the deck, but this deck is 3 cards from full hip. And I could totally replace Quake with Dazzler. So, my god, are we close for this list. Alright, yeah, we'll talk more about Gilgamesh later, but Zoo is like a real deck now. It's a real contender, and it's very powerful. You can find Owie, who built this deck. Owie is brilliant, another phenomenal top 10 to 20 player at twitch.tv/Owie. There are 5 eyes on this. Owie is a French speaker, fair warning, if you don't know French. Nico can be Iceman or Dazzler for this list. Nico's great, but not important. Caer, too, can be Iceman or Dazzler. You can also try Armor. You can try Invisible Woman. Gilgamesh is needed. He's the top end for this list. It's built specifically for him. Alright, so Owie just won Conquerors, and again is a brilliant deck builder. For this list, Nebula in turn 1 is better than Nightcrawler, which is better than the other ones. Turn 2 is, generally speaking, more 1s. Turn 3, Caer or Shauna. Turn 4 is Caer, if you can at all. If not, you're doing a turn 3 and a 1. Turn 5 is Blue Marvel, or Claw, or Caer and a 1. Read the board, please. If you played Caer and you have a bunch of 1s all over the board, Blue Marvel is significantly less important. And then you end with Claw and Gilgamesh. Sorry, Claw or Gilgamesh. Do you need to go wide? Do you think you can steal a lane surprisingly? Or do you need to Gilgamesh and just go as tall as you possibly can? One last look at this very cool deck. I am very pleased with the way Zoo is performing in High Infinite right now. It's not the best thing to do, but it is quite good. It's weekend mission deck time. We've got 2 Gilgamesh decks. I mean, we've got one more because you totally just saw the first one. We're going to look at one more, and then we're going to look at 2 Cersei decks with a full guide for the second. And the second one is frickin' wild. Oh, you know what? Before we go to this Gilgamesh, I'm going to tell you what I think about Gilgamesh. So Gilgamesh as a 5-9 is big enough to matter. His home is largely Zoo decks. I have not tried Patriot yet. It is only a few hours after the OTA. But the way I feel about him currently in Zoo decks is as follows. The Zoo decks are very powerful, but they can struggle with things that can still go over them. They struggle to win the second lane. Gilgamesh is really, really great at 1. You can use help, probably Mockingbird, but there needs to be another way to win another lane. I think that Zoo is close, but I think it's still worse than Bounce, because Bounce can choose to reposition its power, whereas Zoo is face up a lot of the power, showing where it's really going to compete and go for it. We're gonna, yeah. Alright, here's another Zoo. This one is in the top 300 from a kid named Julian. Found a kid named Julian on Twitter, showed their top 300 credentials. Shauna is now a 3-4. This is a Shauna Zoo. Shauna and Squirrel Girl give you access to cheap Mockingbird. If you play both, you've basically filled up your board, but you also have a completely free Mockingbird that you can play with Gilgamesh, and that seems like it's, generally speaking, pretty good. This one is much, much, much less heavy on the 1s. It's only running a few 1s, which means you're really relying on that Squirrel Girl and Shauna to make sure you get enough power, and filling lanes to pump that Dazzler to make sure you get enough power. But if you do so, if you can get a cheap Mockingbird, that you can play on anywhere from 3 to 6, honestly. You can get Blue Marvel or Caer and Gilgamesh. This one puts out an absolute ton of power. You need the right draws more than you do for the other list, but if you see the right draws, then this one is an absolute house. Alright, Cersei time. So Cersei is largely a Annihilus Junk card. Annihilus Junk is in an absolutely phenomenal place. There's a million versions of it. Everything from Darkhawk to Bounce to Full Clog to whatever else. full clog decks love Cersei. She's really, really, really great in those decks. Like, not good, great. She's occasionally going to RNG you to death, but so be it. Marvel Snap as a game is built specifically for that with the snap mechanic. If you snap, your opponent has to decide whether they're willing to risk that Cersei eating their lives or not. And generally speaking, most cards in Marvel Snap are good, and pulling most cards in Marvel Snap are good. So they're taking that extra risk, and they're likely to stay in it. Sometimes you're going to lose extra cubes on it, but more often than not, you're going to win extra cubes. Should you get her for weekend missions? I will answer your question with the question: do you love Annihilus? If yes, do so. If not, meh. This is one of the better Annihilus lists. This is a fundamental full clog list. You can tell by the Green Goblin, Titania, White Widow, and Debris. It is basically saying if I fill your board, I can put negative power on your board. I can make it so you can't do anything to stop. Cersei gives you an alternate win condition outside of Annihilus for the like void lane, for the rock, for the all that stuff. It also works great with Mockingbird. This is from the great Nerf Herder. You can check out, if you type in Nerf Herder ZalSnap on YouTube, Nerf has some games of this. Nerf's got like an 80% win rate with this one. It's really powerful. If you look at this deck and go, hell yeah, then you should probably open for Cersei. If you look at this deck and you're like, whatever, then Cersei is not going to be for you. This is like one of the standard builds, although this is a very cool, like, it's got some very cool tweaks to it. All right. The deck we're going to talk about, I don't know why I named this Bullyball. That is totally not the right name for this. Someone said the word Bullyball to me while I was making the deck and whatever. This is an Owl God list, and this is a very cool list. This is very different than what we've been seeing. This deck doesn't need Cersei to win, but it can hilariously dominate with Cersei. What it really, really wants to do, like the whole deck, is fundamentally built around going Wong, Black Bolt, Cersei into Stature. If you can do that, you're going to have a really good time. If you can't do that, whatever, you're fine, right? You don't actually need the Wong here. If you go Hope into 2 cards, right, you can then drop like a Red Hulk and a Kitty, and then you can, or like just a Black Bolt and a Kitty, and then you can drop Cersei on some other stuff with Stature, and just still keep pumping that thena. Very, very cool list, and I love me some Black Bolt Stature, so I'm really happy to see it in this list. You can find Owl at twitter.com/owlsnap. If you're not aware, Owl is one of the most genius, brilliant, mad scientisty deck builders in the game, and this is a phenomenal list. For this list, Widow can be Medusa, Mobius can be Rogue, Red Hulk can be Magneto, and you're going to need the other High Series card, sorry. I told you to buy thena, so hopefully y'all listened to me and bought thena when I told you to. It's very, like, Cersei's pretty damn good. thena is phenomenal and probably nerf-worthy. So I think thena is going to end up being the best card of the season. That's my prediction right now. All right, so this had a 67% win rate. 88 and 43 is absurd. 67% for this list, although Owl God is phenomenal, so that helps too. Turn 1 Kitty, turn 2 Thena is better than Angela, is better than Widow's, but more or less equal to Jeff. Turn 3 Hope over Mobius, and if you Hope on turn 4, you can drop Wong on that Hope, or you can drop like your Widow Jeff type cards, Angela Thena type cards on Hope and get extra energy so you can do shenanigans later. Turn 4 Wong or double play. Turn 5 is generally speaking Black Bolt or Cersei, and if you have extra energy, play another card with them. Ideally, you have 2 extra energy for Black Bolt, and then you can play Black Bolt into 2-drop. And then you go Red Hulk, usually Red Hulk and Kitty, or Cersei and Stature. This deck is sort of all about getting either Hope or Wong. If it gets both, it's really hard to beat. Super cool list, super interesting list. Cersei on Wong is hilarious. Changing cards twice is amazing. It's going to upgrade these cards twice. It's super, super great. And you should, like, literally, definitely check it out. Turning a 2 into a 4 is great. Turning a 3 into a 5 is great. And Cersei gives you option to do that. So try this list out. Very cool list. All right, questions of the day. And then I'm going to sleep. I am so tired. The New York State English exam is tomorrow for my kids. It's been a day, friends. It's been a day. It's been a day. It's been a day. Always Kind LAB asks for the Loki snap conditions. I snap early with Loki. If I have Loki, and either like a way to fill my hand, whether that be Snowguard or Agent Coulson, or Quinjet, I'm probably snapping. And then sometimes I'll lose, but like bring it at that point. I'm perfectly fine losing then. If I've got that going, unless I think they're playing a hard counter, I'm snapping. like on turn 2. Uh, 2, Mandatory Burnout wants to know how Second Dinner is doing post IGN Live. Better. I don't know if you saw it. It's actually in client. The great It's Guest Gaming redid the announcement. My take at this point about the IGN Live debacle is that IGN screwed them and they framed their message extraordinarily poorly, and that's ultimately the problem. Cam also, like, if you check Cam's hot takes video, I'm the first hot take and Cam ends up agreeing about it. So, like, it's all over the place. Guest obviously agrees. He did that video too about it. But basically my take is, if you opened a if you redid that and you got rid of the whole freaking roadmap, we don't need the roadmap. All you need to say is, we have a new game mode. Here's what the new game mode is, what you need to know. There's rank floors, there's all this cool stuff with it, and what do you win in this new game mode? A free card. That's right, no spotlight caches, as long as you're willing to play a reasonable amount of Marvel Snap. Nothing completely crazy. We know how it sounds. Chill out, we promise. You're going to get a new card for free. Get excited, friends. Hell yeah, I would have been all about it. I would have been super hyped. Instead, they started with a bunch of stuff like, what draft might be coming one day, kind of, sort of. Will improve card one day, kind of, sort of. No more character mastery. And, like, all that did was ruin the hype. They framed it extremely poorly. The framing caused a negative reaction, including in me. And I think Second Dinner is doing much better. I'm really excited for a new game mode and a free card. Hopefully. Heretics Lee asks, should Marvel Snap have a story mode or PvE? I would love a story mode. I know that seems wild, but I think a story mode would be kind of cool. I don't need like a giant story mode, right? But like a story mode that especially like early Series 3 players, like when you get to Series 3, you unlock a story mode and you get to play, and that unlocks like, I don't know, a quarter to half of the Series 3 cards as you go, would be so cool and so helpful and really, really, really push Marvel Snap to another level. I think that Series 1 and 2 are so curated, Series 3 could really use something, and I think that could be it. Boombot wants to know how to improve Galactus in the meta. Galactus is really, really good in that weird all big bad deck that we featured a couple weeks ago, that Regis Kilbin found, the Reddit deck. So I don't think he needs to be buffed. If he did, like, I don't hate Galactus with 1 more power, but I also don't want it. And SD, Don't Be Evil, as my favorite fast food spot. That's changed like a million times, so we're not going to do high-end fast food. We're not talking like Shake Shack. We're talking like straight-up fast food. So my favorite fast food spot is probably Wendy's. Of the general regular fast food spots, I really I like the varieties of spicy chicken, and I love a good junior bacon cheeseburger. There are times in my life the answer would have been Taco Bell, but as I've gotten older, that's doing less and less for me. Cool. That is today's video. Certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with on-air things. We got new Patreons to shout out. If you'd like to be thanked on Patreon or get some really cool exclusive content and early access to these videos, please check out patreon.com/snapjudgments. I think you'll like it. So thank you to Abigail Giesland, Mandatory Burnout, Cables, Irregardless, David G. Wingfield, Direwolf, LAB, FaThorNewman, Good Dog Gamer, This Is The Way, Inc. I am Frostman. Hey, I am Frostman. Welcome to the group. Jay Navarrete, J.D. McDonaldino, Caer Takes Lee, King of Questions, Koi Ray, Pyrophoros, The Goat Seeker, Denman Falcon, Doc D, you know Doc D, that's the Newberry. Fat Nick, right after Doc D. Fat Nick approves of Doc D's choices. Doku, Ginger Prime, Philip Rakovich, hey Racco, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, The Bizza, hey Bizza, X vs V and Skippy G, Tommy Nyquist, who won Snap Judgments League Season 1, King of Bros, bro, Black Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Campbell, Ryan Wood, Kev C. Hoda, Ludacris, Lou Antunes, Mod Supreme Models, Darth Dater, Remus Atala, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, another new person, Jason B. Thank you, Jason B., for joining the group. The Fuzzy Dunlop, Spectrum Mix, Matt H., DJ Mikey Hijinks, No Frickin' Flex, Ocularis, The Craig Starry, hey Craig, Pretty Damn Chill, Seamus, all caught up, Seamus, Jonesy, Two Ties, The Pirate King Tuccrr. Oh, Two Ties has a sick deck I've got to feature soon. The Pirate King Tuccrr, The Homie Min, and of course Gunny T. Thank you, Gunny T. That's what the T stands for today, for editing this for me, because I am like gonna pass out and stuff. I love y'all, and I'll see you soon. Have a great day. Tomorrow morning, hopefully tomorrow morning, might be a little later in the day if it has to be, podcast number 1 ranked player Tanjo, recent Pursuit Gaming Tournament winner Gnome. Let's fucking go. Peace.